Graham, welcome. Talk to you later.
Okay, it sounds like it was really good. I'm sorry I missed it. Are we all well?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, Bill is there. You weren't there a moment ago, Bill. You just appeared.
Yeah, I had the new laptop and it has one of those little slides on the top so you can cover up the webcam, and I forgot that it was closed.
There you go. So I just want to second what Mike's saying about RAW. It's a good thing to do, and disk is effectively free nowadays. I know it doesn't always look like that, but this stuff's free. We have a 2 terabyte shared iCloud account, and I think it costs, we choose to pay $10 a month. But, you know, disks, you want these sorts of things. Whoops, these sorts of things, they're almost throwaway. And this is what, 2 terabytes, $50 or thereabouts. Anybody wants them, let me know. I have a pile of these that are no longer used. We're pretty much all cloud or NAS. So definitely shoot the best you can. It's always a good thing to do. Cool.
And I don't know, Graham. I know we've talked about RAW, but maybe it's time to do a repeat of comparisons. I don't know. Maybe others would be interested in that. It's something. It's a very good cause to proselytize for.
Yeah, it seems so to me.
Could we do a tips and tricks on that in August sometime? If there's interest, what do people think?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be
Easy
great.
enough.
That's not volunteering.
Hey, Graham, I'll buy some of your little hard drives too, or at least one. I'm
will
putting
too.
everything on there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will too, Graham.
Yeah, I got a pile of them here. I'm trying to, well, you can't see because I've got a background up, but you may hear that it's very ringy in here. We did a lot of construction and I'm still trying to get my office back together. Isn't it amazing? You know, here's my pad, you know, my tablet for working on images. You plug it in and it doesn't work. Now there's nothing here to not work. But my bloody music in my office, I spent all day yesterday trying to make that work. Everything appears to work, just my music system doesn't see it. So I hate technology. But yeah, we can, if folks are really want to get cracking on RAW. Now, the one caveat I would exercise is that you all need, so RAW is nothing but sensor data. It's like an undeveloped film. Is the best analogy that I've got. So you need something that's capable of processing raw images for your camera. And not all cameras are supported everywhere. But Adobe are very good, and you can usually move even a fairly esoteric format into DNG, which is Adobe's open specification for digital negatives. So.
And let me add to that, that if you take a picture on your phone or on your camera, you have you can also have a JPEG. It's not just an undeveloped piece of film or nothing. You can have an undeveloped piece of film and a JPEG. And Nikon gives you a choice of shooting one or the other or both. iPhone, basically it will shoot one, I think, Beth, but then when you export it to your desktop or to a program, it converts it into a JPEG. So you don't have to make a choice about shooting JPEG or RAW. You can do both. That way you can start building your library of RAW files, and as you learn more about processing, you can go back to them and do that instead of just using your JPEG files.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually, Mike, because I go back to, I guess on Lightroom, we're on what, version 5 now of the processing engine. And I go back and rework some of my stuff from the early 2000s. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
Going back and reworking is what the The challenge is this week and week after next is going back and reworking.
Well,
So,
except not a single person sent me a raw file. Everybody sent JPEGs. Nobody even sent a TIFF. But anyway, we'll get to that. So
because we don't know how to send raw, because our Google Gmail, won't let you send over 35 megabytes or whatever. So you can't send. I mean, if we're just using that, which I still am, you can't send the raw. So that is what I would like when if we talk about tips and tricks, is again going back to how do you, once you get this nice raw picture that you have edited and everything, how do you get it to go anywhere? Especially if you're not using the cloud. The cloud, you can just do it that way, I guess. But
well, then it's SneakerNet. SneakerNet is the only other real way that I know to do that. And that's put it on either a thumb drive or a hard, one of these little hard drives. I think, I guess I'd ask the question is, why would people not use the cloud nowadays? There are many.
well, I think you can send a raw file on Dropbox if you use that. But the other thing is that you can process a raw file, convert it to a JPEG or a TIFF, and send that.
Yeah,
yes,
that's what I
So
do.
you don't have to send your JPEG altered file.
Well, except that, Mike, on a day like today, the reason I'm mentioning it today is that where we may go and work and look at a file, we're back to the difficulty that you expressed earlier, that, JPEG,
You baked in a lot of things that you can't
JPEG
change.
is baked. And that's exactly it. The whole process or the whole point of RAW to me is you can go back and edit until you're satisfied, then bake it either by exporting it to some fixed format or printing it. But you've always got the original to go back and work, and working it doesn't degrade it in any way, which is not true for many of the other formats. Certainly not true for JPEG. Okay. Cool. Any announcements? I see. I notice people are creeping back after they go away and desert us for a while. They creep back quietly and sneak in with their posh iPhones. And welcome back, Beth.
Yeah, I see Ace out there too.
Yep. Well, I don't, but I see he's here. Any announcements or anything?
I don't think there's really too much as far as announcements go. I did talk to Minnie Gallman. We were talking about having a presentation, and she is available for August the 17th. So we might be able to get her on here. And she's had a lot of experiences before, everything from going to the Arctic Circle in Canada for the Northern Lights. She's gone to Greenland. She's, I think, down in Patagonia. I mean, you just name it. But I asked her maybe to focus on night photography, because she took a kind of a workshop about 2 or 3 years ago out of the Outer Banks. And I thought, based on the folks that we have here, to be able to maybe do some night stuff might be a next step, because I don't believe many people here are going to say, let's all go to 20 degree below zero Canada to do the Northern Lights. Yeah. So I'm trying to focus her on something that we might do. So she's available for both the 17th and the 31st. So we're going to get something together.
Okay.
Excellent. Anybody else got anything?
Maybe do we want to talk about another in person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it seem that Wednesdays seem to work for us? Because that's all of ours have been on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. If we have another one soon, there's a lot of flowers, I guess, within Farrington. If we want to maybe do something like focus on close-ups, macro, things like that. Just throwing it out there.
How about Duke Gardens or something like that?
Yep. Good thought.
Yeah, I've never been there, so that'd be good for me.
Oh, yeah, it is great. I was there last week, I think, right when they first opened back up. They were closed for the longest time. I don't know why. I mean, it may have just been because of volunteers. But now it's just easy, just park and walk right in. And the photo I submitted, I took there last week. So it
Cool.
was interesting, yeah. It's a great place. I recommend it.
Ah,
It would be best to go before the students come back. That parking lot can fill up.
Right, okay.
Yeah, some of us may, if we do go to someplace like Duke, maybe, for those that are in Farrington, we can meet there, maybe
Carpool.
take 2 cars instead of taking,
Yeah.
6 or 7 cars.
Yeah.
Another option could be the botanical gardens, even closer.
Yeah, the one's right down here in Chapel Hill.
yeah.
Somebody mentioned botanical gardens over in Duke. Has anybody ever been there?
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, I'll look into it and see it. Somebody mentioned it and I said, I never knew they had one.
Ah,
I don't,
I'll see what I can find out and email everybody.
yeah, I'm not aware of it. I lived in Durham many years
Yeah.
and I'm not aware of it.
there is the Duke Forest out there, and there's some
Right.
interesting places to go. Duke Forest, I've been a couple of times, but I'm full of good intentions of getting there, but haven't made it much. But trips out, I think, would be a good thing. I think, we could start to think in terms of having a gathering that goes to a place, and then we can, one of the things that always fascinates me is the huge difference in results that you see when you put a small group of photographers in the same place. So, well, we saw that from the barn, but so anyway, we should start to think about that as things open up, hopefully. And so,
Hopefully, yeah, they don't start closing down again.
well,
What's the name of the place in Chapel Hill?
Botanical garden.
Botanical garden.
Botanical gardens.
Oh, the NC, okay.
Yeah, that you and I had gone to that one time, Bill.
Yep.
Really, the students are going to start coming back in about 2 weeks. So if we're going to do this, we would probably be best to do it before they come back, because it gets full. It gets real hard to find a parking place over there.
Let's see, I'm just looking at it. How about like August 4th? That's a Wednesday. And I think that would be before they're back.
well, I'm going to be gone, so unfortunately,
All right. When are you leaving, Graham, and how long will you be gone?
we're gone the 30th to the 14th,
Okay, all right.
2 weeks.
Let's see.
Well,
But you guys can go on your own,
yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't want to denigrate the contribution Graham would make, but I think we need to get together, if not the 28th, on the 11th, maybe.
Yep. Go and take bad photos. That's what. Did you all watch the video?
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
That was sort of. What did people think of it?
I would be thrilled to have shot any of his bad photos.
Helen, say that again.
Yeah, what was that, Helen?
I would be thrilled to have shot any of his bad photos.
Yeah.
Surprised he didn't mention post-processing at all. There were some shots that he didn't like, but I thought, well, if he cropped them, they would have been more interesting.
Right.
Agree.
I think I got the impression he was trying to steer you towards do it in the camera and not wait to like some of the things he pointed out and try to change in post-processing. It's probably better to try and think of it up front.
Right.
Yeah, and
Problems with balance and with flow and all that. Try and correct it as you take it. Then you can do your final post-processing, but
Yeah.
got a good image to work with.
and
One of
Frank-
his quotes was like the most important part of, wasn't it something like the most important part of any picture is the 12 inches behind the camera, which is,
Adam.
Yourself, yeah.
yeah, Yeah.
Well,
Bruce
and
Lee.
in line with what Frank said, there's a lot to be said to zoom out, especially if you've learned from Bill anything about sharpening if you need it. But if you give yourself room to crop, you can do some of the things that Frank just suggested.
Right.
That if you zoom in too much, you minimize the opportunity to crop. And I watched it this morning, and I think, but these are the things he mentioned: balance, flow, attention, simplicity, and distractions. And some of those things overlap. But the thing I got from it that really spoke to me was the whole idea of looking at the photos that you take and figuring out what it is you like and what it is you don't. I
Yes.
like blue skies.
Yeah.
And that's, if I don't have blue sky in something, then maybe it's wishful thinking in terms of other things, but
Yeah.
blue skies are a good thing.
Yeah, the important thing was to find a way to look at your images and kind of analyze and kind of think, what can I do better next time, so you can get it better in the camera. And that's something I know I've never done. And that's why the two images that I sent to Graham are ones that I will try never to duplicate.
Well, and I think Bill found a really, really good video. And the other thing I took from it that is extremely important to me, that I need to think about, be mindful of more often, and that is, to hell with what anybody else thinks. To hell with what they think. Do something that you like to do. And if you like the image, it doesn't matter if it wins an award or it gets published someplace. It's a personal satisfaction thing. And that if you like stuff that's out of focus, shoot out of focus. And don't listen to anybody that tells you it's out of focus. It's what you like. So,
Well, if you ever come to my house, and I think the only one here that's been here is probably Frank, and he kept saying, the image that you're looking for is the one you want to put on the wall. Frank, what color is my walls?
Yellow.
All white.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're looking in the back there. Yeah.
I have one photograph.
that's color
on the wall.
balance. Color balance.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of work to do.
Right.
Put art on your walls, even if it's not yours. Seriously, I put, I have a few prints from Charlie, and those of you who've watched Simon Baxter that I've recommended from the UK, I bought his last set of prints, and we have these picture rails, at this sort of height, out here particularly, and I have a rotating gallery out there because I want to look at it, and I want to take them in, and I want to study them. I would like to make a couple of points though. I sort of agreed with, I liked a lot of what he had to say, and particularly, his emphasis on be your own person. I think the only thing I'd build on what Mike's saying though is intent is important. So if you wanted to take, an out of focus photograph, that's fine. But if you like it because of the memories that were there, and the memory it evokes in you, then, maybe there's a different image there. And the other thing that I would say, so intent is all important. And I think that's what he's saying about get it right in camera. Many of the things he was talking about, you couldn't fix in post-processing. They were not capable of being rescued, right, because that wasn't the picture that he was going for, or that he realized later was there. And again, we've talked about work the scene a lot. And so I liked his idea of looking at what works and what is less successful in an image, but then apply it to your photography. I mean, really apply it to looking through the viewfinder, and getting the framing you want. Charlie Kramer walks around with this little frame and does this. Not with a camera, but actually with like a, if you would, a mat. Yep, exactly that. But he is he hands them out on workshops. And it's very interesting. I never really got hooked on that, but a couple of my friends did. And it's very interesting. It makes you stop and think. And as your skills and your vision develops, that's 90% of it. They're going to, you're going to work on exactly where I want it and the framing that I want and what am I trying to achieve. And the technical stuff, even though it may seem difficult to some of us, it disappears into the background, as it should, because once you've got that stuff out of the way, then you can really concentrate on what is the vision and the image and what am I trying to make here. So we talk a lot about post-processing, and I think post-processing is important to bring the best out. But I don't like the idea of rescuing. Rescuing should be a last resort. And I've been there. I did a photo shoot in a studio, all of it 3 stops underexposed. And let me tell you, when you're 3 stops underexposed on a studio portrait and glamour shoot, you're in trouble. I worked a lot of hours to rescue enough to make the client happy. So rescue is, I do only as a last resort. I'd really encourage folks to get it as right in camera as it's possible to do.
Well, I think I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't know who was speaking.
Beth.
Well, I just wanted like the basketball court shot that I submitted last time.
Yeah, we did.
There was no basketball on the court when I first started shooting. And then I spotted it and I was like, wait a minute, that needs to be on the court. And I put it in different places until I finally liked where it was.
Yep.
And that was all before I didn't have the frame to look through and I didn't do this, but I was looking through my camera and I was going, no, that's not the right spot, until I moved it where I liked it. And then I finally took the picture.
And that's one of the big things that you have to do is, which a lot of us don't, and I'm one of them, you have to have patience. You have to be able to not just want to take it and move on. You have to sit there and let it permeate in you a little bit. And like Beth did, look around and found that basketball and did those kind of things.
Yeah, we hated that, Beth. We didn't like that shot at all.
I liked it.
And
We loved it.
That's
We
another
loved it, Beth. We did.
Oh, thanks.
This is another testimony to digital. It costs you nothing to shoot 100 shots of a basketball. Nothing.
So there's another point that comes out here that I always used to look at photographs and I used to think, how the hell did they get to press the shutter at exactly the right instant to get the image that they want? And then I was somewhere, probably in a workshop, and I was listening to the difference. Somebody described the difference between taking a photograph or an image and making a photograph or an image. And what Beth's just described is making an image,
Taking one, right?
not taking an image. And there's a huge difference. It sounds really trivial, but the answer is that they weren't just lucky when they pressed the shutter. Whoever that image maker was, there was a lot of planning and envisaging that went before the moment. A lot of the work is done before you press the shutter. So I think, and these all sound like esoteric skills, or they did to me when I started with my little fly spots on images. But they're worth thinking about and seeing and pushing to see if you can apply them in your photography. And it won't, like the rest of this is a skill. You want to get a skill by constant practice and maintaining that. Vince Versace says, perfect practice makes perfect. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes perfect. Yeah. If you keep doing the wrong thing or bad things, it doesn't help you at all. So that was an interesting discussion. I sort of like the guy. There was some stuff I like more than others. But you got to stop with these Brits. They're not trustworthy, Bill.
Well, the other guy's Australian, so yeah, it just doesn't seem like.
He wasn't Australian. He wasn't Australian.
Oh no, he wasn't. But there's another guy. I think it's Mark Smith or something like that. He's an Aussie, but
Okay.
And Gary Go and.
Actually, can I throw in another thing? This last week, there was a free introduction kind of thing to contemplative photography. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that, but it came up in my mind as you were talking, Graham, about taking a picture or making a picture. Well, in contemplative photography, and this was a Mixsang, MIKSANG workshop.
Yep.
They talk there about you don't take or make, you receive the picture. And it's a whole different approach, which I thought was fascinating. Because it is, after a while, you do start going out and know what it is that catches your eye and what. But anyway, that's another whole approach. So if people are feeling like, well, I can't quite, do it by the skilled way, that way, there's several ways of, I think, building skills. And that one is another kind of interesting approach.
Hey, what was the how would I find that, Betty?
It's, well, the technique or approach is Mixsang. It's sort of I believe it's either Japanese or whatever. And
Could you spell it again?
MIKSANG. Yeah, you can just Google it and you'll get to their website. But Graham, we talked about Mixsang, I think, at one time, but this was a more general introduction. This guy was a Mixsang teacher, but he was teaching contemplative photographies, which is another whole school, more on the Zen approach to life sort of thing. They're not teaching just photography, they're teaching perception, how you look at your world, how you live your life, all that kind of thing. So if anybody's in that sort of stage right now, check that one out, because you can still take pictures and do your self-development at the same time. So,
Right.
And listen, I used to have a plaque on my desk that said, "Just don't say it." And this is another, I just cannot not say this. I'm looking at this and I think of how proud we need to be of what's going on in this group. You think back a year or more in this group, this discussion never would have happened. And I know there are some new folks, but just hang on for the ride, because this group has grown talent. And the other thing I'm going to say about it is that if you watch other group meetings or attend other group meetings, they don't have an educational focus like this one has. It's absent in other groups, or absent to a very large degree. And we need to be proud of what we're doing here.
Yes, I really have learned a lot. I'm enjoying this a lot.
yeah.
I have also.
Good stuff. Okay, shall we rest on our laurels?
Yes.
All right, let's see what we got here. Do I have a screen to share? Lightroom Classic. Okay, hey, look at that. Do you guys have that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I thought, we're going to be a little bit different this week, obviously. So like we normally do, I'm going to ask the maker of the image, A, to put their hand up, and then B, tell us what they think, why they submitted it, and what they think needs rescuing. So does that make sense to folks? So who's the owner?
Okay, this is the me,
Okay.
and I do have the raw version of it, but
Oh, sorry about that. What the bloody hell happened there? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
yeah. This was taken back in 2017. This was probably about 5 cameras ago. It was a time when it was probably most of the shooting was on automatic. I think I had a Canon T5i at the time. And it was just a trip out to Bryce Canyon. And at the time, I just always thought that, the wide expanse of the canyon was, well, it was awesome to see. But from a photography point of view, it's just, it's really busy. And I just, took this picture for the challenge because you don't know where to look.
Right.
So I thought it'd be interesting to get different perspectives of what others might see in it, and then just try to work it from some of the input.
I see an Incan village, and the lower part of this, if you cropped it down, would look like something that existed 1,000 years ago.
Mhm. Mhm.
It took about 45 million years to make this happen here. So it
Well,
was.
I don't know what the time frame is, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
So
Right.
are we supposed to be offering like thoughts about what to do or how, if you wanted to get something here that you were happier with?
It may be from everyone's eyes, like saying, okay, we see this big thing.
Mhm.
What might have caught your attention more? The fact that, maybe, and this is one big advocate thing that I always have nowadays, 4 years later, is sometimes you got to get closer to something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Bill, it, to me, what really makes it is everything in the center. So that, let's say, cropped in a little closer, that some of these tips on top of the rock may come out more.
Yeah, and
See what I'm saying?
I totally agree with Frank, and I see this, and the first thing I thought of was La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks,
Yeah.
it looks
Okay.
like a gaudy thing. But yeah, the stuff up on the upper left-hand corner, there's too much of it. And I'm one of the many things I've learned from Graham is picture within a picture. Where is that picture within that picture? And as I said earlier, if you didn't have a wide shot, if you didn't step back and take more than you really thought you would need, you wouldn't have options on cropping like you have on this one. But there, you could take almost any quadrant other than the upper left-hand corner and make a picture of this.
Yeah.
So
Like the lower left-hand corner is where I'd go.
Yep. That
I
looks
like
good too.
I like that too because of the green, but I also like the way the lower left-hand corner looks in contrast to the upper left-hand corner. So I kind of like that contrast there.
Yeah. What I like
But
about
Bill-
this one here is it when the cropping in, it's kind of, I hate to, use the term that he used, balanced. You've got the 3 points, the cropping over on the right, the cropping up in the center, and then on the left.
Mhm.
So just balance it out, with 3 different pieces to look at.
Graham,
But
can you put the
what Bill saw was the expanse,
You're right.
and if you start cropping it way down, then you're losing his original,
Right.
to use what he originally received. So what about thinking in terms of cropping it as a panorama more? I don't know, somehow that's possible.
Well, and I think I'm beginning to go the same way. And one thing about cropping, it doesn't have to stay in this aspect ratio. You can change this landscape crop to a portrait crop, and just imagine doing a vertical of the right third of
Right.
this, or something relative to a vertical crop.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's getting close, Graham. Yeah.
With that nice diagonal line.
Yeah.
I don't see a focal point easily.
Well, it becomes almost an abstract.
Yeah, it does. Which is
and
nice.
I don't object
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, I'd probably have to get a little more contrast in it too.
Mhm.
Just,
If you can go over further to the right and do the same thing.
Yeah. And Bill, I know this is an older photograph. When I zoom in 100% or something, there's still enough detail with some sharpening added that you've got you still have a pretty darn sharp photo, at least with, an 11 by 14 or something like that. Maybe not bigger, but
Yeah.
yep.
and if AJ was here, I would say not put some birds in, but you could clone some of those towers.
Maybe I can get the,
blanket spots.
maybe I can get those pelicans that I took out at the beach and put them in there.
I want one perched on top of here, please.
I can do that.
Okay, cool.
This is just,
Dropping water down on that face, that thing on the left face, and have it be a waterfall. That would be
Yeah.
yeah, this was just a shot that I took while I was going through the park later in the night. So you can, again, it's just a big wide expanse, but a lot more contrast to it just because of the lighting.
Yeah, and I think on that one, Bill, that one's almost there all by itself with some attention to highlights and shadows, and maybe crop it a little bit above the bottom where it is now. But
Yeah. Because I like the layer effect of it.
Yep.
You got the different rock layers up to the pinnacle, and then you got the mountains in the background and the sky.
This one's
And
really
therefore-
close already in my mind.
Yeah. And therefore the wide expanse of it works.
Yeah, I think the part that I think about the most as being a negative actually is the top part of it where, it's kind of a flat sky and the background, that second set of range back there is just kind of gone, but maybe that's what makes the
Right.
foreground look better. I don't know.
Yes,
Well, and I
this
think,
one
Bill,
works.
if you did some highlight work, that you might be surprised at what you see in there.
Yeah.
And then there's the idea of just masking out some of that, the lightest part of the sky, and doing some very focused, limited darkening, or substitute something else.
Put it in the pelicans.
Put the pelican on the
Your
top.
pelicans.
What about eliminating the trees at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yep.
Again,
Yeah.
making it a more of a panorama,
Right.
cropping it as a panorama.
It looks like there's a road going through there, maybe,
there.
and you can even crop it above that road, or
Mhm.
I think if you cropped out as much of the sky, I would kind of like that.
oh, there you go.
Yeah.
No, you need some of the trees at the bottom. Well, maybe
Is
not.
Yeah,
Maybe
no,
not.
because a lot of the
16
trees
by
are
9.
shadows.
Mhm.
And Graham, put that on the upper right-hand corner, put that mountain as it disappears right up in the corner instead of down a little bit.
This guy?
Yeah, right up there. There you go.
Mhm.
A little bit higher, so it just catches the mountain in that corner.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Was that 16
On, Bill.
9?
Yeah, it's good because that darkness in the lower corner, the lower left corner, was kind of distracting from it. Now that's taken out of the picture entirely.
Plus the trees, yeah.
Yeah, the trees that were dark.
Just had a little bit of trees on the bottom, but they almost blend in.
Right.
Well, and Bill, there is still detail in that left-hand corner.
Yeah.
A tiny bit of working on the shadows might bring some out, but there's still detail in all those dark spots.
Yeah.
That's a good photograph.
I like this one. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's see.
That is mine. As usual with trying to shoot living creatures, it's kind of you shoot and pray and don't have a lot of time to prepare. I like the bird. There are other, it needs, as usual in my shots, it needs to be clearer. But, and I did shoot it raw, and I believe that's the JPEG from the raw.
Okay.
But it needs clarity and something else. I don't know quite what.
So let's go back to talking about before we press the shutter. There are some things you can do. And one is, working out what exposure might work best. The other one is thinking about how to focus, because if you've got something like this, the general rule seems to be that if the eye is sharp, you get away with a lot. So that would say to me, oh, I want to be on a single focusing spot. And the way I deal with that is to use only the center one, half press, and then reframe it to what I want. And just looking at what's going on here, you can see that the lighting is behind. So you're going to want a slightly more exposure than a general impression would be. Otherwise, you're not going to see the detail in the bird itself. So is this a big crop, Helen?
No. That was about using a zoom lens, it went up to about 85, but no, that's the bird that you can walk up to at Scarborough Park. And he doesn't fly away, he moves away slowly, but you can get very close to him. And but you got to be prepared to do it quickly, and doing it quickly, I get flustered and lose it.
Well, that's really what I'm saying, is take much of the work out, as much of the work out ahead of pressing the shutter that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And then, this, you're close enough in my view. You would be okay. Let's just pull that back up again. So 100th of a second is reasonably slow if a bird is going to start moving. Again, if I would not have shot at f/18, you don't need anything like that depth of field here. I would suggest you could get away with a lot less, which would let you both reduce your ISO, because this is fairly noisy, and it would enable you to up your speed, which will help with your sharpness.
Right.
So those are both things to think about. And again, if we have in our mind a sort of flow of thought, the way we start to tackle things, then a lot of that you really can get out of the way, and then you're ready with a single point of focus, and you can move quickly because everything's set in the camera. You don't have to stop and think about it. So to me, that is 90% of the context. And I've talked before about the thing that got me really passionate about photography was photographing aeroplanes. And for a long time, I had what my father described as fly swatter paper with little dots on images. And it was only when I really started to think about what can I prepare for? How can I make the instant, because these things are often coming at you at very high speed. How can I get the instant that I want? And what do I have to do to get that? And one of the simplest things was most runways are grayish. And so if you set your exposure using the runway ahead of time, you know you've got pretty much mid-tone gray. And then you can decide what you want to do, you know, plus and minus there. But to me, that would be the sort of process that I would try and start to develop, Helen. Because rescue, you know, here you could do some rescue work for sure, but you're not giving yourself the best shot, you know, the best possibility of doing that.
Hey, hello. You know what I really like about this thing is the face, the expression on this bird's face. It's hysterical, almost comically hysterical.
Yeah.
And then I really like the highlights where it comes over its back. I don't know what it is, and then also a highlight right underneath between its legs. And if you sort of worked with that movement of light and kind of, but kept that hysterical, what I call hysterical look to it, maybe that would be kind of cool photograph. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about this, where, like Graham says, you kind of have to have something ready to go. Now, what I've been trying to do myself, because I normally didn't take pictures of wildlife, but what I've been doing is when I see something that's somewhat perched, something that might not really move really quickly, my kind of mentality has been to go thinking shutter priority, because you have to now pay a lot of attention to the movement. And for something that's like this, I would be probably at 1,000, a shutter speed of 1/1000. If I thought it was something that was more likely to move or to take off and fly, I might push it up to 2,000. So what was the shutter speed on this, Graham?
100.
Yeah. So it might have been better to approach a piece of wildlife thinking of shutter speed first and less of aperture. And then, like you said, the needing to try to focus on the eye area.
Right.
But,
So if you did
yeah,
what Bill's suggesting, you would sort of go 100, 200, 500, 1,000. So you've got 3 stops. And you're F18 here. So that would only get you down to F11, F8, you know, and you would have got your shutter speed. So those things are even at the high ISO that you're on. So yeah, I think Bill's thinking there is spot on.
What
yeah,
was
if it's something that
uh,
if it's something that can move and might move, you have to get that shutter speed up.
Yeah.
Because there's Murphy's Law.
You're right.
And there's also the issue of what lens magnification you're using as well. If you're going telephoto, you want to have the high shutter speed. So many factors have to combine between the exposure, the shutter speed, the equipment, your eye, what you're trying to get, what your subject is doing. It gets very complex, which goes back to having some of the basic technical aspects well under control, to be familiar with at least, so that you can capture what you're wanting to capture if it's something that's a transitory image.
This is why I very rarely try to capture wildlife. It's so challenging. But there is a quality, I think, about this image that it has sort of a painting quality to it.
Yeah.
And if you, instead of fighting that, you go with that, maybe that would work for you.
It does have like a little abstract quality to it.
Mhm.
That's right.
Well, and Helen, the one thing that hasn't been mentioned is shadows and highlights. There's more detail in this photograph than is in this version of it. There's more detail in the feathers. And I think that a lot can be done with just shadows and highlights.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep, they're there.
Yeah. That brings the shadows out and then to tone down the highlights some.
That
Yeah.
also seems to make it look a little sharper or less
Yep.
noticeable on the blur.
Yeah.
it does.
Plus, we can put it through Sharpen AI.
Cool.
But that, I mean, even, and I agree with Bill, sharpen would improve it, but just what Graham did, that changes the photograph to me. There's so much more detail in the wing than there was.
And what was the ISO in it?
Yeah,
640.
640.
640. Okay,
100.
because like with the Sharpen AI, it does both sharpening as a priority, but then it does some noise reduction.
Right.
Because I think one of the mentions was that there might be a little noise in it. So it's something that maybe it would be good to go through that.
Well, again, it's this comes back to knowing your instrument, really.
Yep.
Bill mentioned the T5i earlier, and that's what I shoot with on my rig here. And I got complacent, and I made a whole montage a little while ago, and I shot it at, I think, 800 ISO, which to me is fairly routine, and you don't even think about nowadays. But when I saw the results, it was like, okay, yeah, T5i, that's a few generations old, and they didn't do high ISO anywhere near as well, even a fairly recent.
Right, and this is a T1i.
Yeah, this is an older
Oh,
camera.
if this is then keep your ISO way low, 1 or 200 on a T2i, I would say. If you have to go above that, you have to do that. But you can see what happens, even with 640, which we would think nowadays is, shrug shoulders. But depending on your instrument, maybe not. So.
And the other thing, Helen, and I know this is a tight crop, but even if you left it tight like this, I would play with doing, again, a portrait crop on it rather than a landscape crop, and putting the tail of the bird about where it is now, but expanding it. I mean, if you have a little bit of above and below, that's getting really close to what I'm thinking about. But you may need to see what else is in the frame.
Oh, I like that a lot better.
Yeah, I like that.
You could even back up a little bit farther. And I think, Graham, one of the other, I mean, I don't think you can do it with the crop you're working with, but I bet that there is more to this on the bottom and the top that could be used to move the left side out just a little bit more, so that the bird is looking into more than just that little spot.
I just did. There's plenty on the left. So
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, I really like it with the grid on there. It makes it look like tile.
Yeah.
It looks like a tile thing. It really looks nice.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's a good picture right there, if I do say so myself.
Okay.
But there's a lesson here, and that is play. Like Graham says, play.
Okay.
Good lesson.
All right, this is my photograph. I was watching TV, and that woman at the top there was on the TV, and I was amazed by her glasses. and then I had my iPhone sitting on top of my closed laptop below it, and it was like 12 o'clock, and I was groggy, and I thought, oh, look at that strange lady, and my camera was there, and I just picked it up and took this photograph.
Oh. Was she a
And
newscaster?
so, I look at it, I go, well, that's crazy. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. I like it. And so I've had it around for, I don't know, 6 months or so. And I keep thinking, well, I'll throw this away. And then I go, oh, I really like that. I like things about it. It's strange.
Tom, what is it that you like?
Well, I like the story. I kept thinking about, well, why did this woman wear these weird glasses to be on TV? And then I thought, oh, look at that, how perfect that reflection is on the iPhone below, and look how it has all this stuff about media in it. And I don't know. It just seemed topical and odd, and as I said, I was half asleep.
Yeah.
And the camera was there. The camera happened to be sitting there. So I took it. So my question is, why didn't I put the top of her head in there? I don't know. I don't know, but the big question is, why didn't I throw it away?
You were tired.
This is kind of like street photography without the street.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So it's going to suggest, yep.
Flipping it.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Now you got her completely in the top.
Yeah, I like her head is falling off the bottom there with her glasses, like she's going underwater underneath there or something. I like that.
So what was the rescue aspect, Tom, that you were looking for him for, Tom?
I'm sorry?
What was the rescue aspect that you were looking at?
Oh, I have no idea. I just thought, well, this is a photograph that I don't want to throw away because it's eccentric and odd, and yet to just by itself, it just seems like something that I could do something with. And I don't know what. And then I thought, oh, maybe some people would have some ideas about what to do with it, other than toss it. Anyway, you don't have to have ideas. I'll play with it. So.
Well, actually, I liked the very top, well, the part that was on the top before. And if it were my picture and just for me, I would be cutting that whole thing out and just having, the white area picture at the top, and then playing with the, the whole painting kind of aspect of what is there. I mean, to me, that looks like some kind of interesting abstract painting. And the fact that it's half her glasses and not completely her head and everything, I don't know. I just thought that, I would like to just play with that whole part.
Well, okay, great. Thank you. That's a good idea. Great.
Posterize it.
Posterize.
Yeah,
I've seen that word. What does that mean?
I don't know. No, where you can kind of change the feel of it, make it look more like a poster than a photograph or an image.
yeah, I have a Andy Warhol vibe about it.
Yep, that's
Like
where
you could duplicate, duplicate her face.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of maybe, with the reflection on the iPhone down below, that I was thinking, oh, look, there she is again. So maybe if I took out the apparatus in the middle and squeezed the two images together, something like that.
And maybe if you do some adjustments or do something with the one on top, leave the one on the bottom alone, just to create a little more intrigue.
Uh-huh.
Cool.
Anyway,
All right.
Graham, I think I evidently wanted the rescue aspect to be very apparent in my photo. So what the reason
I
it
love that.
shadows on each side of the top is that I used a lens from a D3400 Nikon on
On a full frame.
50, and it was the lens.
Yep.
It didn't quite work, but that's the one I had with me until I
Uh-huh.
got the new lens. So it's got the shadows on each side.
Okay.
I thought that was a vignette you had.
Yeah, that's,
No, that was a mistake.
yeah.
So, but that was in Yosemite in April. So
I love it.
I'm
Wow.
not sure what can be done.
Well, I mean, the first thing I would be looking to do would be to crop it and get rid of the vignette, because you're not actually covering anything that is,
Yeah.
in
You're gonna
my
take
view,
away from it.
substantive to the story. So, you know, let's just see what we can do here.
Mhm.
That's,
Yeah, that helps.
I just left the post-crop vignette on. Let's get rid of you. Thank you.
Yep.
I sort of like that bit down on the. Is this from Washburn or from Glacier Point?
I don't know.
Uh,
It was a whole area of tourists.
yeah.
Well, that applies to both of them, unfortunately.
When was it taken, Bob?
It was first week of April.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things we want to do is,
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, take out the haze a little bit.
Yeah, that helps.
have
Wow.
some problems with. There we go.
Oh, yeah, and you got the bringing that brown out up on top of the mountain there and the sky.
Well, it was very blue.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is, whoops. Let's take that back. I'm using these temperature controls up here.
Yeah.
So this is where it was. And you've got huge blue cast in there. And so if we add yellow
Yeah.
taste, then what we're doing, neutralizing that blue
Right.
and getting much closer to where we want to be.
Good.
So that's good. Let's have a look. I think we might get those midtones a little, and I'm really pushing here. You can see how much I'm pushing the controls.
Right.
And then I might do that. And interestingly, how about that?
Yeah.
That's a lot more clear too.
You're right.
Well, I pushed a lot of clarity in, but you know, this is so the problem for me, I've shot a lot in Yosemite. We used to do a lot of, this was a standing joke with our group. We would go to Yosemite and then we would not be allowed to take icon photographs. And it's like, why are we paying a fortune to stay in Yosemite?
Yeah.
And not take icon? But I mean, it's one of my favorite places in the world. And so, but the question always is, you know, there are memory photographs, and then what the hell do you do that hasn't been done 15 million times before?
Right.
Right.
Actually, I'm sort of starting to like this. It's looking a little sepia. It's almost like a, what do they call it? A toned photograph, you know, where you've put one tone into the darks and one into the lights.
Yeah, I like it.
You know, so what do we do here? Let's actually have a look. So here are all the changes. Can you see them down here?
Yeah, I don't see anything on the screen as what you've done. Like, I don't see the controls.
You don't?
No.
How strange. Oh, well, it's magic. I just waved my magic wand here. Oh, how odd. Ah, I thought you were seeing all of this.
You know, based upon what you were describing, I knew what you were doing, but I can't see it.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, we did some cropping. I tried doing post vignette crop opposite. I tried to get rid of the black, but it wouldn't, there was nothing there. And then we did some cropping. Dehaze, I pushed in really quite hard. Dehaze is up to 76. I added half a stop of exposure. Temperature, we really pushed temperature quite hard to get that blue cast out. Pushed the exposure another half stop, or maybe that was going back again. I might have took it out. And then pushed it a bit more to 2/3 of a stop, temperature some more, and then pushed in clarity, quite a hard amount of clarity, plus 60 on clarity. So the big changes are to the temperature to get rid of that blue cast. We pushed in plus 55 on yellow. I almost never do that. To me, those, the controls for temperature and tint are really subtle controls generally. It's really unusual to push that much in. But I think, if you look at where we started, other than the crop.
Big difference.
Yeah. So that's the difference. So you can do this even with the JPEG. If you have your RAW, you can push it. I would go back and reflect. This is Bob's, isn't it, Bob? Yeah. Yeah. On how you got there in the first place. So that's what I would do. When we go close the circle back to the video that Bill pointed us at, is go and look at why you ended up there in the first place, and think that through for your own,
Right.
But certainly, if you're prepared to play, is this the best photograph of Yosemite I've ever seen? Maybe not, but I think it's a perfectly acceptable photograph now.
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
Especially compared to where it was.
There you go.
Yeah.
You gave him something to work with, though. That was the main point.
There's always something to rescue in there.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Okay. Let's see. Okay.
That's one of mine. Another of my shoot it quick before it goes away pictures. In Jenny's Park that day we walked around.
Oh, okay.
With two, I don't like the grass, but I didn't know how to take it out. I'll put the grass on the left.
Yeah, I think you're flogging a dead horse with that. This
That
would
would be so hard.
be the image of a lifetime to do that work, in my view. It's tough. I mean, there's some stuff you can do. So if I press the J key, you should see, press the J key. Oh, it's going to develop mode. Thank you, Graham. Press the J key. You can see this is extremely contrasty. So the black is where the shadows are all blocked up. And the whites, like here, you can see where this is all, the highlights that's pushed to white.
Yeah,
so
I really didn't like that rock and worked a little bit to try to get rid of it. But
which rock?
That one, the one behind the duckling.
This one?
Yeah, it was almost blown out.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, the first thing we're going to do is pull those highlights way back.
Yeah. Now we'll take it down.
And then, well, do we care? Let's move see where we're not getting too far with the blacks. Let's try the shadows. Nah, we're not going to get. Not getting anywhere much with that. Yeah, you just, okay. So what we're going to do is minimize the damage, as it were. Let's switch that off so we can see the image. Let's see what we can do. So to me, that's much better balanced. Let's try pulling the whites back. Yeah, I mean, you just got so much contrast. And then to me, the actual picture is in here. So we could choose, should we wish to do so, to get rid of some of this. This is really bright. So if we did something like that, and then if we really want to go in, you know, what we could do here, let's just put an overlay on. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going in and catching these spots.
Okay.
I don't want to, so that one's bright. I don't want this bit up here, so that's just not being careful. There we go. And then this bit down here, we don't like this that bright either. So let's just go in and paint that. And then we can affect only those areas. Okay, that's good enough for government work for Mary. Mary knows all about government work. And then we can switch off the overlay because we don't want to see it when we affect it. And then we can start to pull them back. But you see what's happening? It's artifacting. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Here and here. And that's the problem. You can play with a JPEG, but it's challenging. So to my mind, that's, you know, that's where I would think. What do other folks think about this image?
I was curious, Graham, was it say what f-stop it was shot at?
F11.
Oh, really? Okay, because the mother duck, the head is more focused than the one next to that rock, and then one down here seems to be. So I thought it was you know, a tight depth of field, but you know, F11 should have.
Yep.
So I thought they would have been all of them in focus.
Well, yeah, would have thought. Yeah. I know, Helen, you've been working on focusing, accurate focusing thing. So this is a while ago, huh?
Yeah, but I think I had central focusing on there.
Okay.
Do you remember where you focused? What did you pick as your focus point?
No.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the key. The central focus is a good thing, but you have to decide which is the most important.
Mhm.
And then,
And one thing too, you know, this might be a time to just get away from the post-processing kind of thing, but you know, if you're someplace local, if it's a place that you photograph quite often, and you take an image like this and you go home and look at it, and you see all the grass and everything that's causing a lot of the distraction, you know, some of the idea of trying to rescue something like this would be to go back right away and maybe try to find the birds again.
Yep.
Like if you're in a place particularly that's like, say, if you went to Grandfather Mountain or something like that, you know, you could take some images there and you can't do much with them. You find another spot.
Right.
You know, you take another perspective, you try to get higher, you try to get lower. But sometimes you have to go back and try to get it again. Yeah, because we can't fix everything in post.
yep,
No,
very true.
you know, get back to trying to get it close to perfect in the camera when you shoot it.
Yep.
You know, using what you learned when you tried to post-process some of the other things. So, you know, like trying to take that grass out just would have taken two, you know, if not impossible to do, but maybe if you went back and you caught them from a different angle
Exactly.
without that
And-
grass in front of them.
Or bring a weed whacker next time with you.
You better do that at high
Yeah,
shutter
I think
speed.
they'll fly away on you, but yeah.
Well, I think, you know, to go back to the video, looking at this one in post, you know, it's about, to me, building the awareness. I've got to be really careful that I haven't got things in front of my subject.
Right.
So I need to move. I might have needed to move way right and shot more this way. I don't know whether that would work or not, but to me, that's the point of what the guy was talking about in the video was,
Right.
okay, I did this last time and I wasn't happy with it. How am I going to do it differently this time?
And then there's that
Helen.
issue, issue of patience too, that maybe you realize this isn't going to be the shot.
Yep.
And you just have to wait around until they move somewhere else.
Yep.
I mean, you know, sometimes getting that right image is a lot of doing nothing.
I didn't get a single image of these guys that I served. Not
So
one.
Helen, I was going to tell you that sometimes I like move things. So, you know, like I would move grass out of the way, or I'd move a dead twig out of the way or something. And you couldn't have done that because you couldn't have gotten that close to these guys. But, you know, you can move things out of the way to get the image that you're after.
Mhm. I believe some sneaky people even put things into their images too.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, this one is mine, and the reason why I put it in is this is West Virginia, Blackwater Falls, and I was trying to, I usually, you know, take telephoto with my birds and things like that and kind of understand all the controls when it comes to that. So this time I was trying to work with my 16 to 50 millimeter and just really didn't get anything out of most of the pictures that I took. I think I don't understand it. I haven't, the nice thing is I have another chance. I think we're going to go back to West Virginia at the end of August, and I can do these things all over again. So I'd appreciate any insight into, you know, how to shoot something that is like this.
Just like you did.
Yeah. I like the fact that, obviously my eye goes right to the waterfalls. That's what stands out. You've got the people looking at it, and then all these trees kind of swirl around and frame it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it's brighter. It's brighter than the trees and the shadows. I don't know if, maybe I would have tried to bring the shadows on the lower left out a bit, but that really doesn't bother me. But it's just, everything goes to those waterfalls. There's your flow. No pun intended, but
Yeah, right. Well, actually, okay, so this was, it was an F8. Usually I'm, as wide open as I possibly can because I don't have enough light. And so I'm trying to figure out, when you're shooting a vista like this, is the point really to try to get the f-stop as, up more 11, 12, 13, or
I mean,
does that have anything?
well, you would have got greater depth of field, but you clearly didn't need it here.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think you're taunting us, Betty, when you bring this for, so the only two things that I would observe, to me, the bottom is untidy and doesn't add much. I would counsel thinking about this. And in honor of Mark Herberth, it looks slightly tilted.
mm-hmm.
That would be, so I would
Okay.
suggest.
Oh, yes. So you went with the rail. You try, actually.
Might even go a touch further. And it may not be, but it looks,
Yeah, it looks better anyway, to try to, maybe a little too much there, but.
Yeah. So I think there's little in here that I would have changed on that shot. If you want people in your shot, then this works because they're sort of anonymous, but they give you context. The exposure is good in here.
What
Now,
about
Betty,
colors and contrast and stuff like that? It seems like it's a gorgeous site. And, I just felt somewhat, of course, disappointed that didn't come through on the picture, the way that it.
But what do you think is missing that you were looking for, Betty?
I think it should pop out a little bit more than it does, or.
Well, then that you could do. This is one where I think you would not do things globally. You would do things in here. So we pick up a brush, pretty broad brush, we'd put an overlay on and we'd go somewhere. And I'm not being particularly precise, as you can see. And in this case, we don't really need to be precise. I don't want these guys. So this is, okay. So I might do that. I might just, well, actually, no, I won't. I'm not going to do that. If I did that, I would do it separately. So now we've got something marked out that sort of roughly equates to where we want it to pop, yeah? Turn off the overlay. And then all I would do is think about popping in maybe clarity, like that.
Yeah.
Maybe texture. Texture's a bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
There, yeah, okay.
And you could, this is one way, I mean, this is not sharpened. I mean, all I've done is punched in quite a bit of texture, 17 texture, 73 on clarity right now.
What if you adjusted the highlights? Would that take that right side of the falls down a little bit?
Well, I'm not sure you want to.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's a good conversation to have, but when I'm looking here, and I can see the numbers. Oh, now they're a little, maybe a touch on the high side. So I'm seeing 95%-ish.
Okay.
For red, green, and blue, which is about as high as you would ever want it. I like 5% on each end, particularly if you're going to print. And arguably that's a little hotter. So you could bring down those highlights just a touch. And then what have we got? 88.
All right.
So around 90 is not bad, but you're not getting your pure white there. But
Right.
I don't know. I mean, does that pop more for you, Betty?
Yes, it does. And I guess the point is I'd have to be able to locally work with it, not globally.
Right.
Yeah, to make it pop out. I mean,
If you did that stuff globally, it would just, in my mind, it negates it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to diffuse where you want me to look. And right now, you want me to go here. Well, I'm pointing at the screen, you can't see that. You want me to go here. And to me, these guys are incidental and supporting.
Right.
They put context, but I don't want these guys, I don't want my eye to go down there. I want to know that they're there to provide the context. But to me, this is a great image. I mean, this is one for the wall.
Yeah, no, it looks really good now. I can't do that because I don't have, local control over.
You gotta
But
fix
that's an
this.
argument for taking it maybe to Photoshop elements. Could I even do it in that or not?
Sure.
You could, I think.
Yep.
Could work with just the image of the falls itself.
I'm a fan of Lightroom, as you know, and this is what we're using.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, great. That's the way I want it to look.
Now,
Also,
Betty,
yeah,
did you say you were going to go back?
yes.
How much time when you were there last time did you spend looking for different vantage points?
I didn't, again, I was with other people and I had to take a quick picture, but now I can think about it. And if I want to go back, I can spend more time, just make a trip to,
Because I was wondering if you could get down to where the water goes into, say, like the brook or the river below it, so that you would have something, you'd have this leading line being the brook going right up to the waterfalls.
Yeah.
And you could probably eliminate the people down there.
I actually like the people there. I like that kind of that whole, I do have pictures of just the waterfall like you're saying. Anyway, I will do another round in West Virginia and see where that comes. But thank you. That's good input.
Cool.
Do you guys have any suggestions on HDR aspects of doing the multiple exposures to get blending then of your, since it's such extreme differences?
Well, I don't see extreme differences, to be honest.
Well, to bring out more of the water whiteness, if you will, more of the texture. I know you've done a great job with the post-processing, but I was just
But
thinking,
HDR wouldn't do that for you.
okay,
I mean, HDR, let's just recap, is high dynamic range. So we're going to use HDR when we've got extremes of contrast, where if we wanted to see huge detail down here and huge detail, you know, effectively flatten out the photograph, reduce the contrast, that's when we would use HDR. To my mind, there's nothing here. We've, you know, actually you can't see, I'm sorry you can't see the histogram, but there are no blacks here. There are no blown out, no blacks and no blown out whites. So HDR might give us things to play with if we were trying to be creative, but I would argue that it's absolutely not necessary to get this image.
okay. I was just thinking if you had several different exposures, physical different exposure frames of
Worth doing that.
and blending them
Okay.
in specific areas. Anyway,
Sure. And if that, you know, if that's creatively something that the image maker wants to do, that's fine. You know, nothing wrong with taking multiple bracketed shots. I often do that. And often I end up with one of the shots. I find that I've got enough dynamic range in one shot that I'll use that. So you're the image maker. You take them and you play and you create what you want to create. But in terms of this shot, I personally find it more than acceptable. It's an excellent shot in terms of dynamic range.
You know what would be fun sometime is to take all these shots and then take them with iPhones and see the actual difference. Because I was thinking, if I had the iPhone 12, I think I probably could have gotten the same shot, you know. Anyway, that would be fun.
I want to charge up because we've got a few photos. We've talked a lot today, and we've got a few to go, and we're at 12:30. Okay. Beth. Did we lose?
Okay. Yeah, no, this is mine. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. So I think the bleeding heart flower is whimsical and fun. And I caught this image after the peak color. So what I kind of am thinking, what would make this image better, from my opinion, is cropping and then a little bit of work with the color to make them as vibrant as they are when they're at their peak. And I kind of liked the dew. It is a portraiture setting, so that's how I got the depth of field in it. But it needs, there's also some, I guess the water droplets made those white circles too in a couple of places. So I am sharing the thoughts that I want. This is what it looks like without any work. And those are the kinds of work that I want to do on it, because I really just love these flowers.
I want to see more of the dewdrops.
Okay. Well, when I crop it, we'll see what I can do to help bring that in.
Well, sharper is rather than more. I was thinking, can you bring out the dewdrops by enhancing it in some way?
Oh, the ones like on the stem or
No,
on the
ones
leaves?
that are on the leaves.
On the leaves. Okay.
Don't know, just a suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This my initial reaction to this was that you didn't do any work on it, Beth?
Not a thing. That's what I thought we were supposed to do was.
Right. No, it's fine. But the water droplets look odd, as though they've already been sharpened. I wonder if it's something that the iPhone does in processing.
Maybe. maybe.
Hmm.
But no, that's just taken as is. I mean, that's shown without any work on it.
Right, I gotcha.
Might that first one need a little sharpening?
Yeah, I wish that was more in focus because I really wanted that one to be the focal point, but yeah, and it's not. But it's really, I think it's funny because you can see like right around the edge, it looks like they have hairs, but that's the water.
Right.
That's the dew. So I will take other ideas.
Mhm.
Well, if you want the Beth, you know, I have this thing called Sharpen AI,
Yeah,
and I could just do that one in the front there and just see if we can just sharpen it up just a little bit.
awesome. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, because it has a masking feature a little bit like what Graham was showing with the selective work, so we can maybe do something with it.
Okay. The other thought I had, we've been talking a lot about doing portrait instead of landscape, and I could clip that one out and just do that little cluster and get the leaf below it. So
When you, what were you talking about taking out? The last,
the one on the left,
the one on
I'm
the
holding
left?
my hands up so I can see it.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but to do the cluster and leave off that last one to the left that's out of focus.
Ah, okay. Yep, worth a try.
Yeah,
You do have a little space in between, so.
yeah,
you might be able
exactly.
To do it, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'll play around with it and thank you for your ideas.
Okay.
That's my shot, Graham. Actually, if you're trying to save time, I'd rather go to the one that I did on Farrington Road because I have a self-serving interest in
Okay.
what's going to happen. Not that guy. Yeah, that guy.
That one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I know that spot, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not an icon. It's not an icon because that's the isthmus on Frankton Road up from Martha's Chapel, where it Martha's Chapel Road, where it tees into Farrington. And I go by this a lot, and I've always wanted to stop, but there's 6 feet of tall grass between the road, which is a straightaway, not surprisingly, and the guardrail. And so you gotta watch where you open your door.
Yeah.
And you don't want to stand out there forever. The reason I took this shot, and I had it in mind when I did, which was maybe 2 weeks ago or so, in part, just because it's very arresting, is that this was taken in with my Apple 8S. And I knew at the time that I was going to get a 12 Pro Max. And so I wanted to see if I took this with the 8, what could I do with the wide angle of the Pro Max? How much better resolution would I get, if any, with the Pro Max? And because it's got that extra wide angle, and just see what I'm getting myself into, which I think is going to be a big improvement and a good investment on my part. But otherwise, it's a nice shot. And I took one that was just strictly a wide angle. This is a pano, actually. And I took one that was strictly a wide angle. So you get less of the sides, not surprisingly. And in a way, I actually like that better. But in any event, comments, and anybody's got something to say about use of the 12 Pro Max. I was talked into it, recommended into it by my guru, Neil Berman, who does everything Apple for me.
Oh,
Because I'm dyslexic in part, which is not an excuse. I trust her.
right.
I think it's a great scene. I've often thought about photographing there. I,
No guts, no glory, Graham.
pardon?
No guts, no glory.
Well, the thing that often puts me off it, you've got it right here, is that there is actually there are clouds in the sky. The thing I struggle with around here, by which I mean the East Coast, is you know, it's a very different way to look, I find, and it's taken me a while. I'm finding that, you know, you need to go much more into the detail, for me anyway. But I will, you know, it's still on my list of things to go and shoot. So things to work on here, I would say, make sure you've got your focus point set accurately. These, I think the trees here could be sharper. And it might be a reflection of the older model phone. And then the other big thing is border, oh, come back, border patrol.
Yeah, I got the,
These in particular, I mean, these you can accept as part of the framing, but those to me detract. But the beauty of this is it's close, and like Bill said, you can go back.
Right.
This, you know, to me, this is a perfect location. I like this place, but it needs the sky.
Now, the one thing that Chris had mentioned, that it'll be a wider angle lens, which then actually, or maybe the option of it, it might cause more of the distractions in the front, because you're now going to have more in the scene.
yeah.
Right.
So it may not necessarily be a necessary thing to use the wider lens. Yeah.
I agree, Bill, actually. Like I said, I've got the one without the pano, and I like it more. But, you know, I'm just playing around with a better camera and seeing what I can do with it. And, you know, I drive by here and I say, wow, that'd make a great picture. So I stopped and put my life on the line.
Very good. Go back, keep doing it. Keep doing it, keep going, would be my.
And do, Chief.
Okay, let's see, G. Okay, so I think there are a couple we haven't got, whose is this one?
This is mine. I mentioned before Duke Gardens. I went out there last week, and as I was walking around, I saw this cactus plant. And my first inclination was to just take the whole plant. But then when I stood over it, the way the lighting was coming off on the top, I kind of liked this picture within the picture better, because you've got all these lines, almost like rays going into the sun, you know, that the upper piece being the sun.
Yep.
So I just put the two together, or, you know, put them side by side, and I just like this one better. But other than that, I didn't do any cropping or anything, because it was pretty much just the way it was on there. As long as you stood properly and moved the camera around, you got it. And I don't know, maybe it could be a little more in focus on some of these pins on, you know, coming off of the leaves here, and maybe a little sharper on the upper piece where the what I'm calling the sun, where these rays are coming out of.
Well, I think you're doing a Betty on us, Frank. I don't think there's much to rescue here.
Okay.
You know, it does look a little soft, but it's soft overall. So sharply, I think you'd get away with it.
Okay.
You certainly were stopped down fairly well.
And also, I thought I just lower back down on the shadow, so it's darker.
Right.
On in between. So some of this that was showing through would disappear.
Yep. Yep.
That is a beautiful image.
Very good. I think you're teasing us.
That's, I think that Duke Gardens would give us a lot of opportunities like this. Yeah. There's a lot there.
Did you use a tripod, Frank?
No, I didn't, because when I was there the last time, they said no tripods. But since there's nobody in the booth, I could have just walked in with it, and I don't think anybody would have said anything. So I think the next time I go, I'm going to bring it with me.
No, I think it's good.
Yeah.
Thanks. doing some sharpening and, you know, sort of minor things that you've talked about would be good. But to me, it works.
Oh, thanks.
Nice.
I'd put that one on my wall.
After I sharpen it though.
There you go. And then I think the only one we haven't had then is the bunny.
Oh, that one's mine too. And that was just with my iPhone wanting to see how close I really could get to this little guy.
Yeah.
But then I kind of liked it once I got through.
Yep.
But if anybody's got any quick comment, otherwise we don't need to spend too much time on.
But the sharpness of the bunny is great.
Yep.
And a little catch light on his eye.
Yeah, yeah.
Betty, I think he's come over my yard since you took this, and he's eaten all my begonias.
Yep.
I like the way you did the path on the diagonal.
Yeah, that was my only attempt. Well, I mean, I cropped it down to that. That was my only attempt to try to make it look something. But I mean, you know, again, I wish that I can visualize how this would really pop and what a great little picture it could be. But I don't really, well, I haven't, this is just taken off the camera. So I'll play with it this next week to see if I can, I don't know, get some more contrast into it or.
Not sure you need much in the way of contrast.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just get rid of, yeah.
Get that corner out, yes.
Yeah, that left corner was distracting.
I wouldn't do a lot. Again, you know, to me, this is
It is.
pretty close,
It is.
Mhm.
pretty close.
Okay, cut him down a little bit, yeah.
I think so. To me, that bottom left corner was not helping me.
Yeah, no, I didn't like it either, but I really hadn't figured it out.
Yep.
I decided not to do anything other than crop it a little bit,
There you go.
so.
Okay, thank you, folks. We spent a long time on these. We run very long, but I hope it was useful. I certainly found it an interesting conversation. So, apart from Betty and Frank trying to taunt us with these perfectly good photographs. All right, I'll cut it there because that's a really, really long session. I'll see you in a couple of, actually, I will probably not see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So is next week we work on these photos and we share them again?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well then.
Thanks.
So Graham, if you're not going to be here,
Well, I'll see you next Tuesday for the steering.
I'm gonna go.
Talk about it then. I go on the 3rd.
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, folks.
All right.
well.
everybody. Have a nice week.
Take
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.